Thank you, Alon. First of all, let me give you a little background on how I got there. DEP, its name is a little deceptive, actually, and Mayor Giuliani used to cringe when I said this, is the water utility that provides water and purifies the wastewater for the city of New York. The water that you're drinking here today is provided by the city of New York's DEP. And it's done not as an agency of the city, but as a contractor to the New York City Water Board, which in fact establishes rates for water, drinking water, and rates for sewage to be cleaned, and doesn't rely upon taxes, but relies upon the payments of the users of our system. I became commissioner of that agency in 1996, was there for almost 6 years. One of the things, and my background is as a consulting engineer, one of the things that became apparent to me immediately when I got there was the fact that the city of New York does an enormous amount of work as the largest water system in the United States, if not the world, and that we did a great deal of work on pilot studies that would help us to upsize those pilots so that we could use new technology. I have to tell you, it was very difficult doing it because the federal EPA is very uncomfortable with approving new technology that has not been proven at the scale you wish to use it. As the largest utility in the United States, it's very difficult to find other examples of usage at our scale. So we had some problems. But we did know that the studies that we did, for instance, for a 50 million gallon per day plant, where we wanted to build one at 500 million gallons per day, was perfect for operational size for a city like New Rochelle, which is just north of the city of New York. And yet when we completed a study, it went on a shelf someplace, and New Rochelle never knew we had designed a system that they might be able to pluck right off the shelf, go back to the engineer who designed it, and have it done for New Rochelle by saving money and saving time. That disturbed me terribly, and I'm pleased to tell you that part of what has been done through UUC and through the organizations that we're talking about, including WSmart, is to try to make sure that we exchange information on the very technology that we develop so that there is no duplication of effort and no waste of money. I also have a military background, and one of the things that disturbed me as it disturbed Michael Balboni was the fact that it's a surface water system. We in fact owned 15% of the 2,000 square miles of the watershed of the city of New York. The state of New York owns about another 30% of it. That's increasing, that's parks and what have you. But all of those parks have people wandering through them day and night. We permit people to boat on our reservoirs. You can hunt and fish on the land that we have. That's the downside, that there are people there. The good side is those people tend to be eyes and ears for the people who are trying to protect the water. They get very concerned if someone is doing something, or it appears that they're doing something that might disturb the water. We also have basically 3 systems, because there are 3 aqueducts that come down to the city of New York. So we're capable of balancing where we're going to get our water from. That's extremely helpful, and it makes a good difference. My military concerns were, do we have a threat, a potential threat that's credible against our water system? And if so, where is that threat, and how do we counter it? And to that end, as the commissioner, I contracted with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and basically asked them to test the system by attempting to penetrate it. And I'm very pleased to tell you that though they came back with certain things that we needed to do, they were very comfortable that the water system of the city of New York was not at risk. It's not a credible risk anyhow. 9/11, on the other hand, was a different situation. We are the Department of Environmental Protection. One of those concerns that we have is not only water quality, but air quality and soil quality. And after 9/11, after the water main breaks that occurred immediately as the buildings collapsed, and I was there when they collapsed, the repairs took place within 12 hours. We were able to get water back, and the firefighters were fighting the fires on the site within 12 hours after the impact of the 2 buildings. The problem that occurred after that, though, was that the fires and the products of combustion from those fires and the dust that spread from the collapse of the buildings provided an air quality threat that was a major, major problem. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but basically I remember looking out the window of my office in Rego Park, seeing one of those buildings on fire, getting the information that it was a terrorist attack, and saying something that I had been concerned about for 10 years was reality, and I was looking it right in the eye. Very, very disturbing situation, but clearly one that we had to contend with and cover at that point in time. What we came up with, and what I came up with, and how I got involved with UUC and with W Smart was the fact that I became aware of the fact that if we were going to have to deal with terrorism, if each water company in each municipality tried to deal with the problems of terrorism, the costs, the expense, and the time it would take to resolve the issues in each of your systems, we would not have sufficient time. The terrorists would be basically on top of us before we could do it. We need to conserve every dollar we can, and we need not to have any duplication of effort in what we do, and that's why I think that what we're doing here today is a critical thing to have happen. We need to move forward, making sure that we get the maximum effort for the minimum cost as we go forward. To that end, we need all cooperate, nationally and internationally. Let me talk for a few minutes about establishing good water governance, because that's why we're here. Quality, crisis management, rapid recovery, and finally something about lessons learned. Good water governance requires certain factors to be considered in managing a potable water supply system of any kind of size. You have to be concerned with water quality. You have to be concerned with having adequate quantity. You need to maintain the system. Interestingly enough, although the system in the city of New York varies in age from having been built yesterday to having been built 170 years ago, a forensic analysis done of every water main break in the city of New York, and I can tell you that to the 99th percentile, there is an external source and cause of the break. It is not the wear and tear on the system. We have found 150-year-old water mains that are in the same condition as when they were installed 150 years ago. If there's acid in the soil or base in the soil or someone disturbs the pipe, that's generally what causes the problems in the breaks. Future water demand. The city of New York is a city of 8 million people. It supplies water to 9 million people. 50 years from now, and it might take 50 years to develop the added piece to the system, will we have 12 million people? And if so, will we be able to meet that demand when it comes down? Long-term planning for water systems tends to be in decades or multiples of decades. You don't bring your system up to a need within a year or 2 or 3. Also, the amounts of dollars that it takes to bring a system up to speed are incredibly large. The New York City water system, as I said, is paid for, all of its construction is paid for by the ratepayers of the city of New York. We're building a third water tunnel now. The effect of that is to turn the linear system in the city into a loop system, so that if there is a break in the system any place, the water will roll the other way around the system instead of being blocked from one point further south. We're exploring duplicating the aqueducts, even though there are 3 aqueducts that come into the city, and that we can use any one of those systems to bring in certain amounts of the water, and we have a great deal of flexibility in doing it. It would be good to have a loop system in the aqueducts. So we're looking at that also. We're also looking at well water that will come out of the very aqueduct that Mr. Balboni was talking about, because there were wells in Brooklyn and Queens that originally supplied the water. Unfortunately, the quality of the water became unusable.